Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another ShowMeFootball.com Kansas City Chiefs live post-game show. We're back this week after I took last week off due to some circumstances and Hydra not being able to join me. Hydra actually won't be joining me this time either because he's busy at work. I know he caught a little bit of the game though, so maybe I can catch up with him later this week and we can talk Chiefs or something like that. But I'm going to give you guys a few seconds, about a minute here to pour in so we can get some viewers. And since I'm riding solo today, like I typically say when I'm going solo, just leave questions, comments in the comments just so I can interact with you guys a little bit more, just because I have more time to and I'll be paying attention to you guys a little bit more. We can make this a very viewer driven show. But yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs not just defeat, they wallop the Las Vegas Raiders 48-9 at home to move to 9-4 on the season. And I think a lot of us really wanted that stress-free Chiefs game all year long, but we were waiting for it to happen. Now we finally got one. We finally got a stress-free Chiefs game, no injuries. We play pretty much perfect in all facets of the game, and it was amazing. Let's start with this, though. I know pretty much everyone, if you're on social media, saw the video of the Raiders meeting at the Kansas City Chiefs logo in the middle of the field before the game. And you saw a lot of players. I saw some players tweeting about it. DeAndre Baker, Armani Watts. They were like, this is what you get. They quote tweeted that video as soon as they got off the field saying, this is what you get. The Raiders wanted that smoke at the beginning of the game. I mean, they asked for it, and they got walloped from the very beginning on the literal first snap of the game. They force a fumble. Jerron Reed forces a fumble on Josh Jacobs. Mike Hughes picks it up and returns it from a touchdown. And from there on, nothing went right for the Vegas Raiders. Let's start with that, though, the defense, because they played phenomenal today. Again, for what is it, like the fifth straight week now, they've been amazing. Fifth or sixth straight week, they've been amazing. Really, though, I think what stands out today is the defensive line. I think they played the best of any position group on this team. And thanks to Chris Jones, he dominated. Melvin Ingram dominated. It cannot be understated how big of an addition Melvin Ingram was to this team. You won't see it in the sack numbers, but he's causing pressure. And look, Melvin Ingram had a sack today too, but he only had a sack and a half on the season heading into this game. But he was causing consistent pressure on the Chiefs, and you saw his snaps increasing, his productivity increasing as the games went on. And that's really great to see. Jerron Reed has become a competent player in recent weeks. He looks really good. Tershawn Wharton got a sack today. Everyone got a sack today, man. Actually, I have the stats in front of me. I can tell you all who got a sack today. Alex Okafor had 1.5 sacks. Tershawn Wharton had a sack. Chris Jones had half a sack. Frank Clark had half a sack. Melvin Ingram had half a sack. And Derek Carr, it seemed like, was getting pressured on every single attempt. I mean, Jesus, that was a walloping. It really was. That's why I put it in the title. They walloped the Raiders, and the Raiders asked for it too. And I said this the last time that the Chiefs played the Raiders, and that you don't really see Andy Reid run up the score a lot on teams, especially teams in which he's friends with the coach. Andy Reid and John Gruden go way back. Those guys are friends. I think if John Gruden is still the coach of the Raiders, Andy Reid does not beat the Raiders nearly as bad as he did today. But you saw the way John Gruden went out in Vegas and everything, and all things considered with him and Reid. I mean, that's why you're seeing the Chiefs put up 40-plus on a team. I think that was the first time ever they put up 40 or more on the same team twice in a season. I never knew that. That's pretty impressive. Also, this game was a scoreagami, which means it's the first time this final score has happened in NFL history. There's actually a cool Twitter account called Scoreagami that keeps track of this stuff on what scores have happened before in the NFL. And this is the first time there's ever been to a 48-9 final score. So I thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, the defensive line was dominant today. Everyone showed up. Willie Gay was flying around as well. Nick Bolton, I think, is the only. I mean, Reed said no injuries after the game, and Eric pointed this out to me on Twitter. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. But Nick Bolton seemed to have hurt his left hand or wrist on one of the turnovers, and I missed that, but he seems to be fine. He'll be okay. He went back in after that. Charvarius Ward in the secondary did fine. Well, I won't say fine. They did good. They did their job. They did more than fine. Tyrann Mathieu even had an interception today. Everyone was causing turnovers, but Charvarius Ward, excuse me. There was one play I noticed in particular, though, that I didn't really like, and it was the Hunter Renfrow, I believe it was Hunter Renfrow touchdown, the only Raiders touchdown of the day. Ward got beat inside, and Ward always gets beat inside. That was like one of the only things keeping the Chiefs from putting up a perfect game. Charvarius Ward gets beat inside again by Hunter Renfrow. What do you know? Hunter Renfrow was really the only source of Raiders offense today. In fact, I can look at his stats as well. He had 117 yards on 13 catches and a touchdown. And just to put that into perspective for the Raiders had 290 yards of total offense today, and Hunter Renfrow was 117 of those. So that just goes to show how their day went. I mean, the Chiefs also stuffed the run today. Josh Jacobs was their leading rusher, 9 carries for 24 yards. That's a 2.7 yards per carry. No one else had more than 10 rushing yards. The Chiefs also didn't give up too many big plays today. Like I mentioned, the secondary, they did fine. Another guy I want to talk about, though, Mike Hughes. This is a guy I've trashed all year long, and he deserved it. He got benched for a reason. And even though I found it interesting that they opted to go with Mike Hughes over DeAndre Baker for a majority of those cornerback snaps today, I found that interesting because DeAndre Baker looked really good against the Denver Broncos last week when he was asked to step up. So I was like, well, why don't you stick with the hot hand? Maybe it's more matchup based for them, but it doesn't really matter because Mike Hughes, I think he was 2 of the fumbles and 1 of the fumble recoveries. That's really good play by Mike Hughes today. I mean, he seemed to have a nose for the ball today, and he looked fantastic. Also, Armani Watts, he got to play at the end of the game when some of the reserves went in, and I'm pounding the table for this guy, just like my guy Michael Darcy at KC Sports Report. Armani Watts needs to play more, man. That guy flashes every time he's on the field, every freaking time. And he should have had a touchdown, a scoop and score on the Alex Okafor forced fumble, but the refs called the play dead because they said Carr was down and he didn't fumble the ball. Then they reversed the call. Carr fumbles and the Chiefs get the ball. And I really wanted to complain about this because I do not understand why referees in 2021 do not let a play out before making such a call. I mean, that is that could be, obviously the Chiefs were blowing them out at this point, but that could be a turning call or a turning point call in the game. If this game was really close and the Chiefs should have had a touchdown and instead they only just get the ball back. I forget what that drive actually resulted in, but either way, that was stupid. You always need to let those play out and then you can make a call after it. There's literally no risk in letting a play out, see what happens, and then you can go back and look at it again. I don't understand why you would blow that dead if Armani Watts has a chance to score there on what was later reversed to be a fumble. That frustrates me. But yeah, the defense was fantastic today. I'll go over some comments though. Chase says, I don't think Orlando Brown, excuse me, let me maximize my screen here. I don't think Orlando Brown Jr. is a good fit. I think he fits a power scheme. Well, Orlando Brown comes from a scheme that runs a lot of power, and you're not completely wrong, but he's actually settled in very well with the Chiefs. The problem with the Chiefs is a lot of their offensive linemen are really good power blockers, but they just haven't been a team that has ran a lot of power in the past, but they're actually running more power than they ever have, and they need to do it with their running backs who are slow and unathletic. They use slow and unathletic backs like Clyde and Darrell, and they send them on these stretch runs which never go anywhere, and it's annoying. And Eric points it out for me. Orlando Brown has been a top 10 left tackle. I mean, yeah, he's settled into this offense really well, and I wrote about that earlier this week on Arrowhead Addict. Philip Johnson says, who is going to win a race, Tyreek Hill versus Hollywood Brown? Tyreek Hill, he's on a different level than everyone else. Andrew Rose says, hi, Josh, buddy. When will the Mizzou versus Army video be coming? And go Chiefs. Class of 2022 is 11 in the nation. The future is bright. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Eddie. And yeah, I can't wait for signing day. It sounds like Mizzou is in on a couple other elite prospects. One of the Oklahoma decommits and Jeffrey Umba, the top JUCO player in the nation. Those ones are feeling really good. So we'll see. And then also as far as Mizzou Army, I'm hoping to make one in the next day or two here. I'm really excited to talk about that one because I think we'll actually see a different quarterback in this game. But back to Chief stuff. Yeah, Naruto fan says Renfro owning Ward again. Yeah, I saw it, man. Lego Mahego says that game was too close for comfort. Right. Slim is chilling says Chiefs were clapping the Raiders' cheeks from the word go. Yeah, pretty much. From the first play of the game, that game was over. And then we'll transition to the offense, and I'll get to some of your other guys' comments, kind of referencing the offense. But Patrick Mahomes looked really good today. He had a bounce back game. Not that his last game was terrible, but the offense had a bounce back game after an underwhelming performance against the Broncos last week. And this is part of why I said I'm not worried about the Chiefs offense. I'm just not. Because I think they'll figure it out. And we've seen them do good before. Now, what some people will point out, and my guy Dan Harms pointed out from RGR Football, is that you don't want to get too excited after a game versus the Raiders, who are very stubborn in the defense that they run. I believe they run a cover 3, and the Chiefs are just able to take advantage of that. It's a little bit different from the cover 2 that was giving the Chiefs problems earlier on, but the Raiders are a defense that the Chiefs, they just have their number, and we need to see it against a different opponent. That's true. But at the same time, I felt something in this game that, this wasn't just, hey, the Chiefs are taking care of the Raiders defense because they're comfortable playing up against that defense and all this stuff. No, this was a game. I felt something this game. I don't know about you guys. This felt like a game the Chiefs were finally firing on all cylinders, and they did everything right. The running game was established. Darrell, Clyde, Gore all played a part in this game. And that was something that surprised me too. I thought the Chiefs would stick to their 2-back rotation of Clyde and Darrell. They got Gore in there, and it was fantastic. They utilized all their backs. I thought they utilized them pretty well. And, it was just a great day for the offense. Going back to the stats, Patrick Mahomes was, if I can get it here, sorry, guys, my computer is a little bit different than it typically is here. Patrick Mahomes was 20 of 24 for 258 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is funny because it almost felt like a lot more than that when you were watching the game. I was sitting there thinking, man, Mahomes has got to be up to 300 yards by now. No, only 258 and 2 touchdowns, but a very efficient day. Wasn't throwing a bunch of turnover-worthy throws or anything like that. None of those throws that typically scare you. He was pretty much in sync with everyone today. Looking at the receiving game, Tyreek Hill, 4 receptions for 76 yards. That puts him on over 1,000 yards for the year already. McCole Hardman, 2 receptions for 59 yards. And McCole Hardman is someone that, I've left for dead, and I made a video on him earlier in the week. But looks like he's out of the doghouse, and he's doing a couple of things. He did just fine today. Darrell Williams, 3 receptions for 31 yards. Travis Kelce was pretty quiet today. He only had 3 receptions for 27 yards, and Kelce's been pretty quiet as of lately in general. And something that, I've noticed with him for a while, but just kind of brush it off whenever it first started happening, is Travis Kelce is getting held and pushed and abused by these defensive backs, and he's not getting any flags. You even saw him at the beginning of the game on the Chiefs' first offensive drive that was run, pass, which I hated, by the way. I really hope that was Eric Bieniemy calling the plays, and then Reed was like, all right, I'm going to take the play calling that, because that was just terrible. 2 runs up the middle and a crosser. That was stupid. But anyway, Mahomes targeted Kelce on that crosser, and Kelce got totally held. The defensive back went right for his neck and almost turned it around. That was terrible. It should have been called. And another thing with Kelce, and really a lot of players, this might just be a Raiders thing too, though, is that he was taking a bunch of cheap shots. Jonathan Abrams, that dude does not deserve to play in the NFL. He consistently takes cheap shots and is over aggressive on our players, and someone's going to end up seriously hurt because of it. He took a totally unnecessary cheap shot on Tyreek Hill later in the game too. A lot of teams seem to be going where it hurts for these guys on their hits, and it really is pissing me off. And the league has got to come down on that, especially with the Raiders and a player like Abrams. It pisses me off that they allow him to do this on a weekly basis. But yeah, and I also think the Raiders were, I forget who it was, took out Logan Thomas, the Washington football team tight end, and he's out for the year now. So yeah, not a fan of playing the Raiders. I'm glad this was the last time we're playing them this year. And then also I saw a comment. No, not that one. Who was it? Sorry guys, I'm looking for one of your comments. We do have a nice crowd in here though, so I appreciate all the comments. I just lost where I was at, and I want to make sure I get everyone's takes and everything like that. Someone mentioned that the Raiders were, yeah, Salvador. He mentioned that the Raiders were running cover 2 today. I wasn't sure if they were, just because I hadn't been paying a whole lot of attention and hadn't gone back and looked yet. But I know they ran primarily cover 3 for the season, so that's interesting. Either way, that's like I was saying. I'm not worried about the Chiefs offense, in this game today showed why. I have full trust in them to get it going. And you saw how dominant the Chiefs can be when both sides of the ball are playing as good as we know they can be. That's awesome. And I want to talk about the running backs a little bit more. That's something I've been wanting to get to for this. So like I said, the Chiefs utilized basically everyone in the running game today. Darrell had 2 carries for 8 yards. That's fine. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 10 carries for 37 yards. And then Derek Gore had 9 carries for 66 yards. And all those guys were getting involved in the passing game as well. I remember even Derek Gore had a nice screenplay that went for a nice gain. All these guys got involved today. And I think they should do that more often. I think they should go 3 deep at running back more often. A lot of times they're only 2 deep, and I hate it. But Derek Gore looks like the most talented back on the Chiefs roster. I said this the first time that he came out against the Giants in that game. I was like, this Derek Gore guy needs to play more. They shouldn't just give these guys their jobs back, or, keep everyone's role the same when a player has such a good game like that. Derek Gore is given the ball again today, 7.3 yards per carry and a touchdown. And he had a 51-yard touchdown run with the backups blocking for him against the Raiders late in that game. And that was the point I was just laughing, man. That was hilarious. But Derek Gore looked amazing. And here's an interesting stat for you. Did you know this is on my anti-Clyde agenda, even though Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually had a fine game today. I don't want to take that away from him, but I did want to share this stat with you guys. Derek Gore had a longer run in this game than Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had in 272 career attempts for the Chiefs. Think about that. That's why I want this team to go and get an explosive back in the offseason. Tyler Beatty from Mizzou in the draft in the 3rd round. That would be amazing. I know Eric agrees with me on that. But no, seriously, it doesn't even have to be him. Just an explosive back to go in this offense to give you those big plays and stuff like that. I would love that, because it's clear that these undynamic, unathletic backs just don't fit the Chiefs offense, even though the Chiefs want to pretend like they do. And another frustrating aspect of that is that the Chiefs have the personnel to actually run an offense that caters around these guys, but instead they try to fit square pegs in round holes by, like I said, making Clyde or Darrell run these stretch runs. It's just stupid. Couple more things about the offense, and then I will get to your guys' comments, and we'll talk about that for a little bit, and then I'll wrap it up. It's going to be a relatively quick show today, especially since the Chiefs won, and I'm happy. It was a stress-free game. Not too much to talk about, right? But Tyreek Hill, like I said, over 1,000 yards. Great for him. Now we need to get Kelsey there to go over 1,000. Also, Josh Gordon got his first touchdown today. Finally, we've been waiting for this moment. Josh Gordon gets involved in the offense, and you even saw him get targeted later in the game by Mahomes, which is significant. Before, I wasn't even mad that Gordon wasn't producing. It was the fact that they weren't even making an effort to get him the ball. Now they were, and I think that shows that it just took time for everyone to get used to Josh Gordon being around, and I think he will be a factor as the season goes on, heading into the postseason. I love Josh Gordon, and I think he's still got something to give. And it was great that they were finally creating a target for him. Like when they went to him on that play in the end zone to get him his first touchdown, like that play was drawn up for Josh Gordon. Do that more. Draw up a play for Josh Gordon. I promise you it will get you a good result. Not these broken plays, forced throws on, I remember there was play against the Titans where Mahomes threw an interception. He was targeting Gordon. That was a bad throw, guys. Like, I know some people say, yeah, Gordon should have called it. It was a bad throw. It was a broken play. I don't really put that on Gordon all that much, but you get my point. Also, Andrew Wiley, he had held up at right tackle pretty well all the way up until today. Well, he had a rough game in the Cowboys game too, but Micah Parsons is amazing. But Andrew Wiley finally got abused today, and it really shows this team needs Lucas Niang to get healthy. They need Mike Remmers to get healthy because they just got to have a better option at right tackle because Wiley is only going to hold up for so long. Those are my notes on the offense. I want to get back to your guys' comments now. We'll start with Eric T. Abrams is a loser. Completely agree. Oh, yeah. I want to answer this one by Lega My Ego, too. He says, what about Saunders? Is he still on IR? Yeah, he just got put on IR. I'm actually concerned about Saunders, though, because when they put him on IR, that was after the last few games in which he was a healthy scratch. He's not hurt. I think, like, maybe... See, when Andy Reid described it, he said, oh, it was like a re-aggravation or his knee isn't all the way there yet. This, to me, seems like a scenario where they're shelving Saunders. He's not in the rotation, so they figured they would put him on IR because there's no reason to just have him sitting around taking up a roster spot. I think Saunders has gotten played out of the rotation, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the injury really is a real thing with him. But this kind of feels like Saunders getting played out of the rotation again. That's just me, though. Eric T says, remember when Eric Bieniemy abused a woman? He shouldn't be an NFL coaching staff. Well, that's one of the reasons I think he's not an NFL coach, but I think his play calling is also a bigger reason. I think we're seeing it now. I don't know if his offensive philosophy that he's presenting to these teams is really appealing them in the interview process, but we still need to get rid of Hardman. His false sense of entitlement stagnates his growth. He'd probably mature only on another team after being humbled by being released or traded. That's an interesting comment. I also think the Chiefs give him way too long of a leash. Like today, he was right back on punt returns, even though Tobe said he was benched and they gave his role to Mike Hughes. Now, maybe that was because Mike Hughes was playing more cornerback today and they just didn't want to give him too much on his plate, but surely there's another option besides Hardman. I don't think he's really learned his lesson yet. But Josh sounds like OBJ's dad talking about Abraham. Wrong name, LMAO. It's Abrams. I swear. Everyone calls him Abram. It's Abrams. I look at the back of his jersey. It's Abrams. I don't know why everyone says Abram. It drives me insane. KC Sports Report says Chiefs are rolling, Josh, just like we said. I know, man. Especially with the defense and how bad they were. And by the way, we got to get back on Kingdom Crew, man. I've been meaning to text the group chat with you and Lucas. We got to get back together. It's been so long. But yeah, we were talking about how this defense, it might allow the Chiefs not to make the playoffs. And you know what? Credit to Lucas Murphy. He always said, come on, the Chiefs will make the playoffs. That's crazy talk and all this stuff. Now, Lucas has always been more optimistic and maybe to a fault, but he was right. He was right in this scenario. He was. Lega My Ego says, what about that Pringle catch? It was clutch. I think you're talking about the one at the near sideline. It might have been third down, but yeah, I noticed that one too. I think he took a pretty gnarly hit at the end of it too. Red Whip says the same thing. I think we're all thinking of the same catch. Abrams is such a dirty player. He needs an ACL to humble him. Well, he already had the shoulder. I want to address this comment. Gore has top end speed that Clyde lacks. I want top speed in the running back. This offense has always been built around speed. Okay. You look at the players the Chiefs bring in, they love speed. So why would you, when you have a premium asset and you're prepared to spend a premium asset at a position like running back, why would you not aim for top end speed? Why would you aim for a running back that is slow, small, and unathletic? I don't get it. Jonathan Taylor should have been the pick there if you were going to go running back. I wouldn't even have taken a running back in the first round, but if you're going to take one, Jonathan Taylor was my guy. And I'm not just saying this in hindsight. I loved Jonathan Taylor in college. He was one of my favorite backs. I watched him at Wisconsin Wisconsin. I thought he should have won a Heisman Trophy before he left Wisconsin. It never happened, but I think one of the main reasons that he didn't fall that far, but that he fell the way he did and that the Chiefs didn't take him is because the fit for the offense thing, which is BS now, as we see. And then also he had a lot of miles coming on him out of college. He took a lot of carries and a lot of hits at Wisconsin, which is understandable, but at the end of the day, he was the better player. Reddit Whip says, my only complaint is we need Niang back. Wiley's getting bodied most of the game. Yep, we mentioned that. Reddit Whip says, Bills are getting smoked right now. And it's funny because I had that game on my TV. Hopefully, I only have like a quarter of the TV in the frame, but hopefully I don't get copyrighted for that. I don't think you can see anything. But yeah, 17-3. It's already looking ugly. Looks like the Patriots might be running away with that division after today. Eric T says, this might sound crazy, but I see so much Jamal Charles and Beatty. You know, Tyler Beatty, I haven't really thought about a lot of comparisons for him yet at the NFL level, but he's got everything you want in a modern NFL back. There were questions this year surrounding whether or not he could take the load as a number one back. Well, it's clear that he can. I mean, there were games he took 30-plus carries multiple times, and he did not get hurt at all this season. He has tremendous speed. He can outrun almost everyone. He's not your big bruising type of back, and he's not that much bigger than Clyde. So people might complain about his lack of size. I don't really think it matters in Beatty's case, though, because Beatty is he's so good. He's so fast. He's so elusive, and he truly is the receiving threat that I think the Chiefs would want. You know, I know we said the same thing about Clyde. He's going to be a factor in the passing game. He just hasn't been, and I don't think he's ever going to be, and I think that's for a reason. I think Tyler Beatty really could be that, though, because he's got a better catch radius than Clyde, and he's got that clutch gene that just you can't measure. But every time Mizzou needed to score, it seemed Tyler Beatty was there to score for them, and they just need a dynamic player like that at running back. So we'll see what happens, but yeah. Reddit Whip says, God, I hope one of those NFC teams can knock off the Bucs. Really don't want to see them in the Super Bowl again if we make it. I don't know, man. I am lukewarm on the Bucs. Like, if we play them again, I'm going to be like, all right, let's do this. Let's get revenge. But if they don't meet up with the Bucs in the Super Bowl, assuming the Chiefs make it, I'll be like, man, I'm so glad we don't have to play them again, because if we lost, we'd really never hear the end of it about Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Because really, one of the only stains on Patrick Mahomes' resume so far early in his NFL career is Tom Brady has his number. Mahomes beat him that one time in the regular season. Brady beat him in the AFC Championship game, and he beat him in the Super Bowl. That's the only thing that Brady fans can hang over Mahomes to this point. Chase says, RB Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M is who I want. I really like Isaiah Spiller, but I think he's a tad bit overrated. Now, I haven't watched one of his games yet. I plan to once I get into draft season, but I loved Isaiah Spiller coming out of high school as a recruit. He was considered on the watch list for the Heisman Trophy, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know, man, but I do think the Chiefs pick up a running back in the draft, whether it be mid to late rounds or UDFA, something like that. Everything we asked for as fans happened in today's game. Yep, and Andy Reid even said after the game that he thanks the fans because they did their job and the Chiefs returned the favor, which was really good to see. I want to address this comment by Richard Watterson. He says Orlando has got to go. And Reddit Whip, I cannot talk today, says Orlando has been solid. Why? And then I don't know why people are saying that. Orlando Brown has been fantastic lately. And I wrote about this earlier in the week. And one of the best things about Orlando Brown that I've noticed is that he's getting comfortable and he's putting opposing players on the ground a lot more than he did earlier in the season. I think he was playing a little bit timid in a new scheme. He had a lot of responsibility given to him right off the bat. He had to adjust those deep dropbacks by Patrick Mahomes, but he's been playing so much better. And we know he's good as a run blocker too. So yeah, Eric T says it again. Orlando has been one of the best LTs in the league this season. I think he has like a 78 overall PFF grade so far, even despite his early struggles. And look, he only gave up like 11 pressures in the first 5 weeks of the season, and 5 of those came in his first game in a new scheme against Myles Garrett. He had a couple rough games at the beginning of the year, but he's been fine since. He's been more than fine. So I don't understand the hate for Orlando Brown. Marlon says, do a Kingdom Crew live. Yeah, we'll have to see, man. I would love to get the Kingdom Crew back together. We just have all been busy. Lucas is doing so much now with KC Kingdom and Say It Again Network and his channel, and Michael's killing it over at 810. So we've just all had, different schedules, but yeah, we'll definitely have to get back together. Red Whip says, Daryl is so solid too. He's becoming deadly out of the backfield. I know. And I said this, but Mahomes and Daryl are developing that passing connection that so many fans want between Mahomes and Clyde. But Mahomes is getting more comfortable throwing to Daryl, and he's doing it a lot more often. Daryl is a factor in this passing game, and a lot of games where the Chiefs offense has struggled, it has been because no receiving threat has emerged outside of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And in some of the games in which a third option has emerged, it's been Daryl Williams. I mean, he had a 100-yard receiving game this year against this same team, and he's becoming a real weapon out of the backfield. I mean, you saw it on the one screenplay today, and he hurdled the guy on his way to the end zone. This is a different Daryl than we've seen in years past, and I love it. He's close to eclipsing 1,000 scrimmage yards, and it's been a great season for Daryl. I love him. Interesting question here from Jillian Harris. Hopefully I said your name right. It says, do you feel like Jody Fortson hurt this offense in a major way? I assume you mean like when he went down, did it hurt this offense? And yeah, I truly do. Carrington Harrison, my guy at 610 Sports, he kind of shrugged off the idea that this offense misses Jody Fortson, or what we call kind of bottom of the roster players like that. I really think Jody Fortson was making his way up the depth chart as the season went on, and the Chiefs missed him. He was a red zone guy. He caught basically everything that was thrown his way. You saw in the Washington game, the same game he got hurt and his season was ended, he had an amazing catch over the Washington defender. I forget who was in coverage on him. It might have been William Jackson. I think Willie Jackson is on the Washington football team now. I could be totally wrong. It might have been him, though, and he was draped over him, and Jody Fortson still made the catch over him because, that's Jody's game. Throw him a 50-50 ball, and he's going to come down with it 99% of the time. I have always said that, and the Chiefs finally started to trust that philosophy with him, and it started to work. And when he got hurt, yeah, I think this Chiefs offense lost something a little bit. Slim is chillin' says, Andy's plays are too long to call no huddle 100% of the time. Well, also another thing that I said about running a no huddle is that the Chiefs' execution for a better part of the year was really bad, and they were turning the ball over a lot. And if you wanted a way to increase turnovers and increase mistakes happening, it was running quick no huddle. I don't trust this offense to run quick no huddle. When they're doing a 2-minute drill, that's a different thing. But yeah. He says Lamar Jackson hasn't looked good as of recently. Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to bring up today. Lamar was hurt. It was a lot of Huntley today for the Ravens, but they lost. So they dropped to 8-5. So the Chiefs pretty much move ahead of them in the standings. They're making their way closer to that 1 seed that I talked about earlier this week. I think the Chiefs have a great chance at getting the 1 seed because I think a lot of these teams that are ahead of them or have a tiebreaker on them are going to lose a couple more games, including the Patriots. Really, the only team that stands in their way of getting the 1 seed is the Patriots, and I do expect the Patriots to lose at some point. Lego My Ego says, why isn't DiCaprio Boodle getting any playing time? Last time he was on the field, he was great. Well, I mean, that was preseason or some garbage time snaps because he hasn't been called up a ton. He did get called up for this game, but he's just a developmental player is all it is. I mean, maybe at some point he'll come up to the main roster and crack the rotation, but you got to remember, excuse me, I cannot talk this episode. I cannot talk. We have to reiterate that UDFAs, usually 80% of them don't really turn into anything. We just have to remember that. Personally, I was never all that impressed by Boodle. I think Josh Jackson, who was also called up for this game, that was added to the Chiefs practice squad earlier this year, is a more intriguing prospect who has some tools to work with. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But just have to remember that usually UDFAs are a shot in the dark. Would the Chiefs beat the Pats that they played next week? I think so. And that's because I think even though the Patriots are a stout football team, they have a good defense, they can run the ball, they're good up front. I think the Chiefs are really good up front, but I think the Chiefs had the better quarterback. And if you ask me the question, which defense do you trust more to stop the opposing offense? I trust the Chiefs defense to stop Mac Jones and the Patriots than I do the Patriots offense to stop Mahomes and the Chiefs when they're firing on all cylinders like we saw today. And I also think the Patriots are a little overrated. I said this before, but I'm not all that impressed with the Patriots. I think they haven't really played anyone recently on their winning streak. I think Mac Jones is a game manager. He's fine. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes, but he's not going to win you a game with his arm. You usually don't win playoff games in January with a subpar quarterback. And they remind me a lot of the 2016 Chiefs that lost in the divisional round to the Steelers. I mean, they're a good story, but I don't really think they're anything special. Lego My Ego says, what's up with Wharton? Why isn't he getting any playing time? He actually played quite a bit today, and he had, I think, either half a sack or a sack. So maybe you missed him, Lego, but he is playing. Maybe before his snap counts were down a little bit, but I noticed him a lot today. That's pretty much it, though. All that I wanted to go over, and the comments are slowing down just a bit. Stacks G says, Pats won't score enough on RD to beat us. That's pretty much how I feel. So I expect the Chiefs to contend for the 1 seed. The Patriots are the only thing that stands in their way, though. We'll have to see what happens, though, with the Patriots in their next game. I forget who they play. I think I can actually look it up real quick. But they're coming off the game on Thursday Night Football against the Bills. So let me see. Oh, yeah, they play the Colts next. So that'll be an interesting matchup. That's definitely a game they could lose. And then they play the Bills again the week after that. We'll see what the Bills come out with in that next game. This is going to be a tough stretch. This stretch could pretty much tell you what happens with the 1 seed for the Patriots. But, yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll have to see. Also, Stacks G says one more thing. I'll go over this before I head out. My first time watching your live, brother. Recent subscriber. Excellent work. And I really appreciate that because you guys are what keeps me doing this channel. And I'm going to have more content this week. I know I've said that in the past couple weeks and then I've only gotten out a video or two, but I'm really trying to start pumping out content again, especially with the school year ending for me, or the semester rather. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. Great team win. Chiefs blow out the Raiders 48-9. The Raiders were completely embarrassed. No victory lap for them today. The Chiefs PA played the wheels on the bus as the Raiders left the field. That was funny. It was a great day. It was a stress-free game. I loved it. The Chiefs are back. Offense, defense, both playing great. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on arrowheadaddict.com and showmefootball.com. See y'all later, and go Chiefs.